Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott Selections here on Tuesday, May 14th. Sorry if any of you missed me yesterday, but my flight got delayed and I was unable to make a play of the day video as a result. But we are back now on Tuesday. New week, we look to end the current losing streak we have in the regular plays of the day. We did end up winning in the tennis selection that we had in the video last night, but either or, all of you would rather talk about the games today. Overall, very difficult card to find value in. I saw a couple of spots where there's potentially value, but I don't really feel too confident in it. But I see a value here with a plus price for a play of the day, and I feel confident in sharing that with you. And with that being said, we will dive into the play of the day first before we go into the NBA playoff game and the NHL playoff game. And if there's still time, I will go over the rest of the MLB card. The play of the day is actually going to be between the San Diego Padres as they travel to Dodger Stadium to take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it's a battle between two elite-level pitchers so far with Clayton Kershaw and Chris Paddock. Paddock's been great his first season, and Kershaw is one of the greatest pitchers of all time in the regular season. But the play we're actually going to be going with is on the Dodgers to score first, which is available at plus 110 on 5 dimes. I know that people might be a little bit skeptical taking a prop like that, but if you get Kershaw at home as a plus 110 in anything, I see that as value and I will be taking it. Now, just to go into both of the starting pitching, you have the Padres who are going to be using Chris Paddock 3-1 with a 1.55 ERA. Dodgers will be using Clayton Kershaw, who is 2-0 with a 3.31 ERA. It is worth noting that San Diego has been awful against lefties this season, as they had the 7th lowest on-base percentage versus lefties in the entire league. Meanwhile, the Dodgers have been killing righties, and they have the 4th highest on-base percentage in the league this season. Main reason why, of course, just so if some of you don't know, how's it going, Terry? Thanks for joining us. In case you don't know, the score first prop is always going to provide value for the home team because of the fact that the away team bats first, and if they score a run in the first inning, then you lose. So based on that, I personally don't think that the Padres will score in the first inning against Kershaw, so I think there will be some value on the Dodgers at plus 110. Paddock's been great, 3-1 with a 1.55 ERA. However, something that people don't focus a lot with regard to pitching or just sports in general is routine and how you get used to doing the same thing over and over again, and with repetition. As, if you take one little thing off, it feels like it throws off your entire psyche. Something that's very common in baseball is, and a lot of people know this but don't really think about it, is the fact that pitchers tend to pitch on 5 days rest, and they tend to pitch every 6 days, so to speak. However, Paddock has not pitched since May 6th, and I'm kind of curious if the extra layoff will potentially hurt him, as it hasn't been that much longer off, but the extra day or two could potentially lead him to struggle, especially against the Dodgers lineup that is filled with talented left-handed hitters, especially with Cody Bellinger and people of those caliber. So that's something to keep in mind. Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. It was definitely an easy winner. And I hope that you actually followed some of the other lanes because I'm pretty sure we got everything right in the tennis video last night. But overall, Paddock's a great pitcher. Kershaw has historically been a great pitcher. And the Dodgers are actually 5-0 in Kershaw's 5 starts this season. So I simply think that the Dodgers should be able to score first. Even if this hypothetically loses, plus 110 for Kershaw on the mound is definitely value that you should try to take every time. Imagine what this line would be if it was last year or any of the years prior where you had Kershaw with the Dodgers scoring first. Probably around minus 120. Now you're at plus 110. Padres have been pretty good, but overall they have not been great against left-handed pitching, and the Dodgers are easily a top 3 team in the league and probably the favorites to win the National League again to make it to the World Series. So for me, I'm going to go with the Dodgers here, scoring first at plus 110. Shop around, try to find the best line. 5 dimes has it at plus 110, so that is the line I'm going to be giving it out. I think, would I be surprised if this loses? Not necessarily because of the fact that score first is a very volatile prop as the road team gets to bat first, and one potential solo shot could ruin the pick. But if you had a choice between taking Dodgers score first at plus 110 or Dodgers winning the game at minus 147, I don't know about you, but I'd rather take the plus 110 instead of the minus 147. So for that reason, we will be going with the Dodgers scoring first at plus 110 at 5 dimes as the play of the day here for Tuesday, May 14th. Now, moving on to the rest of the card, we finally have the conference finals of the NBA tipping off tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Golden State Warriors. Total has been bet up from 218.5 to 220.5, and the Warriors spread has been bet down from -8 to -7.5. In terms of this game, I was leaning towards giving the over today based on what we saw with the line movement in Game 6 with Houston and Golden State, and that line ended up flying over the total. I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes over as well. Lillard was not great in Game 7. McCollum was. I expect both of them to play well. It's a battle between the backcourts here with McCollum and Lillard versus Curry and Klay Thompson. And the most high-profile college out of those four is probably Washington State. As a true reminder, that doesn't really matter where you go to college. You can be great wherever you go, wherever you played before you turned pro. Something to keep in mind. Interesting fun fact there. But overall, I definitely think that this game will feature a lot of pace, especially with the Warriors at home in Game 1. As we saw in Game 6, even without Durant, the Warriors were pushing the pace a lot. They also tended to go a little bit smaller. Iggy caught fire from 3. Do I expect it to continue moving forward? No. But I definitely think that Golden State likes to play with a little bit more pace with Durant out because of the fact that they're no longer ISOing for him at the top of the key or on the low block, and they tend to run a lot more off-ball screens and pick and rolls, which should lead to more three-pointers. Where at the same point, I know Curry won't be able to guard Lillard. Even if Klay Thompson ends up guarding Lillard, I don't think he can guard him either, and I don't think that Curry would be able to guard McCollum either. So Cantor should also do well in the low block against the Warriors' big men. I think this game will go over. I expect both teams to score at least 110 in this game. So I would lean to the over here, and I agree with the line move. And I would also lean to Portland plus 7.5. I know the Warriors definitely impressed some people without Durant, and ended up winning on the road in Game 6 against Houston, as I had a personal ticket on Golden State in that game, which helped cash. But overall, 7.5 just seems a little bit too much. Portland, I know they might be tired coming off of Game 7, but either or, this team definitely has looked the part as a Western Conference competitor, and I think 7.5 is too many points. I think Houston, I don't want to say they got complacent, because they definitely were looking for revenge after losing to the Warriors last season in a series they thought that they were going to win. But I feel like Houston definitely took their foot off the gas a little bit, and at least mentally, knowing that Durant was not going to be playing in this game. So they probably thought they would relatively coast. Do I think that's exactly what happened? No, but I definitely think Houston wasn't as focused as they probably should have been for the Warriors without Durant. And I think Portland will definitely be ready for the task. They played in the first round last year. Golden State swept them, but the first couple of games of that series were actually really competitive. And I would not be surprised to see Portland make this a game in the first half and the second half. I would lean to Portland first half spread, but I'm a little bit scared about the Warriors coming out just launching threes. So I would actually lean to the full game plus 7.5 with Portland. For me, even if the Warriors are blowing them out early, they'll just take their foot off the gas because it's Game 1, and I can see Portland coming through the back door. So I would personally lean to the Trailblazers plus 7.5 and the over in that game. And if you want to make a little extra value on that, try to parlay the two, see what happens. But moving on for hockey, you have the Boston Bruins as they travel to Carolina to take on the Carolina Hurricanes. Bruins were originally a minus 115 favorite. Now Carolina's favored by minus 119 or minus 120 in most spots. And the total is 5.5 with juice to the under. For me, I know Boston's up 2-0 in the series, and they've dominated as they've won both games, by at least 3 goals. But it is worth mentioning, if people have forgotten, that Carolina was also down 2-0 to Washington, and they got smacked on the road in Washington there on the road before going back home, and they absolutely demolished it at home. So I don't think the Bruins are an automatic lock in this game. I would not be surprised to see Carolina score first and to potentially win this game. I think it'll be really close. In terms of the total, I have to lean to the over here. I know 5.5, and I know that there's a lot of juice to the under here. I don't really get it. Boston scored at least 5 goals in both their games. I know that they're a lot better at home than on the road in terms of offense, but Carolina is definitely not going to want to slow the pace down. People might assume that Carolina did because of how the Islanders series went. That's mostly because the Islanders just lacked any offense whatsoever, and they like to play very conservative, hockey with defense first, move forward. Carolina loves to push the pace with Aho and Teravainen and even Justin Williams and Stahl. They definitely have a lot of key pieces who have the ability to score, and their power play has struggled so far in the playoffs, but they definitely have the weapons to score some goals with Aho in there. First 10 minutes, Terry, I feel like it's similar to how you asked yesterday on Twitter. If you like the 10, I think it depends on what value you get. because hockey, that's kind of similar to the first inning prop of score, no score in MLB, where you could like a score, you could not, but in the end, it's mostly comes down to some type of chance, as you will hope that you have some opportunities for a goal, but you actually need somebody to put the puck in the net. It depends what the price you get is. I told you yesterday that I did like Sharks and Blues on Twitter and the scoring in the first 10, but you should get it at less than minus 140. With a total of 5.5, and with the way that there is juice to the under, I can search it up right now on Five Dimes. But for me, I would personally lean to a yes in the score in the first 10 minutes. But overall, I personally cannot have that line. I don't see it right now. But I would personally lean to the over 5.5. I think that Boston's power play has been unstoppable so far in the playoffs. And I think that Carolina at home will definitely come out focused offensively, as they will look to score more than 2 goals against Tuukka Rask. I see this game ending somewhere in the realm of 4-2 or even 3-3 with a potential overtime draw. So for me, I would lean to Carolina. Small lean, I personally wouldn't play it. And I would lean to the over in the full game, the yes as a goal in the first 10 minutes, and the over 1.5 goals in the third period with a potential empty netter draw there. But those are my thoughts on the hockey game. Now, in terms of baseball, looking through the card, I didn't really see much value besides the Dodgers scoring first at plus 110, which is the play of the day. But other than that, I was thinking about giving out Houston, but they're such a heavy favorite. There's not enough value there. Carpenter stinks. Miley's not great, but he has actually been decent this season. And the Astros have been absolutely rolling. Underrated fact, the Astros actually have the number 1 bullpen in ERA in all baseball. People don't realize that. They have the lowest ERA for all relievers. But for me, the total's been bet up from 9.5 to 10.5. I'd lean to the Astros minus 1.5. It was at roughly minus 140. Not a great price, but they should win that game easily. And I would also lean to the over in that game, as I expect Miley to give up a couple runs, and I expect Carpenter to get smacked. So I personally lean there. And if you even want some juicier props, lean to a potential George Springer player prop, or maybe a George Springer hits a home run or something. Because he's been tremendous this season, and I would not be surprised to see him go yard or Bregman, any of those guys. I expect Houston to score at least 5-6 runs in that game, so I would lean to the over there. Other than that, I would lean to the over in the Mets-Nationals game. This was a small lean, nothing big. But Hellickson hasn't been great. Syndergaard hasn't been great. Total's been bet down from 8.5 to 8. Both these teams have terrible bullpens. And the Mets offense has been very underrated this season, with Alonso as right now the front runner for NL Rookie of the Year, as well as some of the other contributors in the lineup. The Mets offense has actually been pretty good this year. It's the pitching that's let them down. And the Nationals have a pretty solid lineup with Soto as well, with Soto and Rendon, but their bullpen's terrible, and Hellickson hasn't been great this season, so I would personally lean to the over 8 there. But other than that, I pretty much finished with all my plays, but a quick, brief, I'd say rant, so to speak, and I kind of want some of your thoughts on this, because if I'm definitely not alone in people who had money on this yesterday. I had a brutal beat yesterday. How's it going, Jerry? How's it going? Overall, and the tennis play I mentioned, in my tennis video yesterday, I mentioned that I had a little small play on the A's money line yesterday, and how it was up 4-1 in the 8th inning and all looked good and whatever. I don't know how bad of a beat that is to describe there if you were also on the A's last night at plus money. They're up 4-1 in the 8th, and then the A's bring in the bullpen, give up a 3-run homer in the 8th for a tie game. So at that point, you're like, okay, it happens. A pitcher blows it, whatever. We'll see what happens. So then it ends up going to the 10th inning. Well, first off, Soria ends up coming in. He pitches the 9th, right? Soria goes 1 inning, 1, 2, 3, no big deal, goes to the 9th. A's take the lead in the 9th again to put it at 5-4. And my question is here, if you're the A's and Soria lets people on base, why do you let your closer or interim closer until Treating comes back? If I asked you right now for a closer, what's the maximum pitches you'll usually let your closer throw? The number you'll reach is probably 30, right? Somewhere along that realm. So my question is, why was Bob Melvin, the manager of the A's, letting Soria pitch and throw 41 pitches in this game? Doesn't make any sense to me. Ended up giving up 2 runs in the 10th, and he ended up losing. That's a brutal beat for me. Sorry if you also had the under there, which was at roughly 8.5 or 9. It was 4-1 in the 8th inning, ended up losing. That was a brutal beat for me yesterday. So if you have been struggling lately, I feel you. and I also had that pain yesterday with the A's. But either or, you can't always win them all. But having said that, we look to turn the corner with another plus price here, as we will look at the Dodgers scoring first at plus 110 at 5 dimes. That's going to do it for this installment of Scott's Selections here for Tuesday, May 14th. Stay tuned later today, as we will continue doing our daily tennis selections sometime in the next couple of hours, as I have to look through the tennis card for some potential value. But if you ended up following my plays, we've actually done really well on those selections, and we ended up winning again last night with Kyrgios +3 at plus 100 at 5 dimes as he won outright. But I'm not going to keep all of you waiting. We're at roughly the 16-minute mark. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets on this Tuesday. Bye, everyone.